Welcome to the Crownsman Show. I'm one of your hosts, Jared Downey. I'm joined today by Rory Bamford. He is hailing from Kamloops, British Columbia, Canada. And Rory Slack. Rory, where do you live now? Niagara?
I'm in St. Catharines, right beside Niagara Falls.
Nice.
St. Catharines, right.
It's a beautiful area of the world other than winter, which lasts, how long does winter last there?
3 days.
3 days and 4 months. Okay. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. We're going to be covering some beer. We're going to be covering some heavy industry topics, some money stuff, some leadership stuff. Great to have you both here. Anything on your mind either one of you want to share before we get rolling? This usually takes up about half the show.
Oh, yeah. Before we jump into it, I want to say hello to all the American viewers watching. They are really into the show so far, so it's good to see. I was going to send you guys an email, but alas, I figured why not just shout out them on the show. They're watching like by far the longest, and keep it up. Follow those beer reviews, and keep sending in the comments about Roy.
And I wonder why the Americans watch, because Americans love good information, and henceforth they love us. That's what I took from that.
That segues into my comment because I love the U.S. and my wife's American.
Oh, right.
My kids have dual citizenship, and my son works in the States. And when we go on a holiday, that's my favorite place to go.
What's your favorite area?
Well, you know what? We really liked our trips to California.
I was so hoping you were going to say Mar-a-Lago, but I really was. Nice. I was just going.
But where has the best beer, Roy? Where have you found the best craft beer?
You know what? We did a Cranky Old Men brew tour of Las Vegas, and lots of great local beers there. And and there was a place called. They had 180 different craft beers on tap. Supposedly the largest selection in the world. And some great places to visit down there. But all over the States, there's great craft beer brewers, and we love trying them out.
And for all our American viewers, by the way, Canada is on our best behavior right now because there's going to be some trade negotiations happening.
We're ready to work.
We're
ready to work.
We love the United States. We want to work with you.
It's going to boom.
And Devin, can you please turn down the heat in this studio?
Totally
what is happening?
Yeah, I don't know how this radiator heat works. God, he blasted it yesterday. I'd have to see.
It's the hottest the studio's ever been. Holy crap. Okay, gentlemen, let's jump in. Rory, what are we reviewing? What are we reviewing today? I'm going to let you take this.
This is going to be a segue from Cardi B last week?
This has nothing to do. This is not a segue from Cardi B.
Really?
This is any resemblance is totally coincidental. This beer is called Juicy Ass, and it is an IPA from Flying Monkeys Brewery out of Barrie. Barrie's about 100 kilometers north of Toronto.
Home of the Barrie Colts, right? For the OHL?
Yes, it is. And this beer was, I was telling Rory before the show, I believe this beer was the first IPA I ever tried. I was strictly, a lager, pilsner, dark beer guy, and was really suspect of fruit in beer. And I tried this one, and I was pleasantly surprised. And so I thought I'd give you guys a chance to drink it. I don't think you can get it out in Vancouver, so this is some beer that we transported out there.
And the fact that you chose this literally the day after we did the last episode with Cardi B is completely coincidental, right? That's what you're claiming?
That's a fact. That's a true fact, not just a fact for our American viewers.
We love America. What's happening? We're going to get in trouble.
Let's talk about our heavy industry tour brought to you by Orica Digital Solutions, leading drill and blast into a new era with next-gen Shot Plus. With market-leading design tools and predictive modeling capabilities, NextGen Shot Plus equips drill and blast professionals to effectively improve blast designs and achieve optimal outcomes. Click below to learn more about NextGen Shot Plus. We are heading to events across North America and Australia and filming episodes on location. Email us at info@crownsman.com to be part of Crownsman's heavy industry tour. When it comes to balancing the growing demand on your grid with the growing need for more responsible, sustainable energy production and generation, you need the right partner. A partner who delivers long-standing grid expertise from a team dedicated to your unique needs, and one who supports that team with innovations designed for the future needs of your grid, while being rooted in proven electrification excellence. ABB is that partner, offering solutions that meet technical requirements, regulatory compliance, and recognize the need for sustainability in your business operations, as well as in the lives of the surrounding communities. Solutions that expertly blend physical services and solutions with next-level digitization. Solutions that enable safer, smarter, more sustainable operations. ABB is the name to trust to help modernize your grid. Learn more at abb.com/ca. Attention builders, we've got everything you need to know about the grit and grind of the construction world in one show. The Construction Show is where you can share your expert techniques and strategies to help keep the crew strong and construction sites secure. From foundational tips, industry trends, safety strategies to advanced equipment and machinery. Be part of the voice of construction. Book your episode and showcase your company to millions worldwide. Visit crownsman.com.
What are you? Okay. Well, cheers, gentlemen. Let's try this, and then we'll give the review by cranky old men drinking beer.
Ding.
Right after the show. Oh, that's not bad.
That's nice, eh?
Good breakfast beer right there.
We can't review it yet, though.
Très bien.
We got to keep
Oh yeah,
everybody.
no reviewing. Yeah, we have to pretend we hate it.
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
I'm actually kind of chopping at the bit to get this to get to my topic. So, Rory, you and I had a discussion about 2 weeks ago about. You basically said stop worrying so much about the margin and start thinking more about the value that you're offering. So I took that advice. I know most of the time we don't take your advice, and there are some good reasons, I will say, but this time it was good advice. So we've been thinking about that, and I didn't want to make it all about what we're doing here at Crownsman. So I was thinking, maybe hand it over to you. What does that mean? What did you mean by that? It was in the middle of a discussion. So what's your thought process when you say it?
Well, this goes back a while, and I remember I was in a strategy session with our parent company at the time, and there was a comment about we need to get better at extracting value from our projects. And you know how you hear something and it kind of rubs you the wrong way. It's like a grain, like a pebble in your shoe or something.
Yep.
And I got thinking about that, and we're all about partnering and looking at win-win relationships and really benefiting the industry as a whole. And the focus can't be on extracting value. And so you begin to think about your mission statement as a company, what you really want to do, and we started to believe that, the right way to approach our business was to first focus on adding value. And when you talk about differentiating a business, you can look at all the things that you and your competitors, and not just competitors, but other products in your market. Like for Crownsman, if you're competing with magazine ads, for example, there's a marketing budget and people have to decide where to spend it. So it's not just competition in terms of companies, but in terms of services, products, whatever. But when all things being equal, how does your company, how does your service add value above and beyond? How do you differentiate? And I really believe that when you begin to think about how you can add value is where you begin to differentiate as a company.
Did you know cementitious binders can be responsible for up to 70% of the total GHG footprint of mine backfilling processes? Now you can replace up to 50% of the binder in your mine backfill operations with Graybond, Graymond's new low-carbon cementitious binder. This lime-based alternative binder maintains a 40 to 70% lower GHG footprint compared to typical cement and can adapt to varying mine conditions without compromising performance. Learn more about Graybond at graybond.com. Join us in the depths of the mining world, where global leaders and industry giants converge to shape the future of mining. From groundbreaking technologies, advanced machinery, revolutionary safety measures, to sustainable initiatives. This is the voice of mining. This is Mining Now. Showcase your company to millions worldwide. Book your episode now. Visit crownsman.com.
So Roy, when they said that, you were like, oh, wait a second, we're trying to do it after, but we need to build that in at the start. So basically it's when we deliver this project that the client sees that.
The focus has to be on adding value. If the focus is on extracting value or maximizing your margin, that's going to be a short-term relationship. And that's not going to be a win-win. And that's what we as a company were focused on, is that type of working relationship. So it didn't align with our values and our mission, the whole concept of extracting value. And we got to a point where we began to talk about profit as an enabler. It wasn't the end goal, but we needed to be profitable to do the things we wanted to do in our industry. So it's just a different way of looking at it.
Roy, I actually was taking it sort of a different way, and I don't know if this layers into it. Is I kind of took it as, okay, if you're Walmart, you're basically a store full of commodities. I mean, there's brands and that and stuff, but we're talking, cereal and ketchup and underwear and whatever else. So but when you go into, like, for instance, every year we start shopping at this store called The Cross. It's an overpriced Winners is really what it is.
The Cross?
It's called The Cross. Yeah. And they don't even exactly. Yeah, like that.
Mm-hmm.
The Cross.
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't even talk to me when I go in there. They look at me and go, "You're just here with somebody." So they actually just like ignore me. It's quite funny. But anyway,
not the clientele, not the target market.
I'm not the target market for whatever reason. Although I probably spent more money than some people. But anyway, they certainly charge more because there's the experience. You go in there, they'll have champagne in there. They'll have Christmas parties where everybody comes in and does their shopping. It's this whole experience they're offering. People pay more. They know they're paying more for this product. So I was kind of taking it that people are willing to pay more for an added value. And I was thinking, I wasn't even going to use this example, but I will. Like when you go out shopping for like a shotgun, you can have the same brand manufacture a gun. There's the basic model. You'll pay more than twice as much for a few added features that really add to the value of what that shotgun is for you, especially if you're shooting a lot.
Like it comes with an Easy Rider rifle rack. Is that what you're saying, or
a what?
Anyway,
a
dated reference.
Maybe a little bit, Roy. But anyway, I actually feel like I should know the reference. But that's kind of what I took from what you were saying as well. Where do you think that plays? Both of you. I'd like your feedback. It really took a long time to make that point. I'm sorry.
I got to tell you a story that happened to me recently, and I was picking up some things at the grocery store down a couple blocks away from us.
Did you get a Cardi B record while you were there? Those are coming back in style.
Yeah, this isn't the type of grocery store that Cardi B shops at, I'm pretty sure.
How do you know that? That's what I'm saying, Roy, that you know these things all of a sudden.
Well, let me tell you why. So I pull into the parking lot, and there's a lady beside me, and she's got the cart there, and she's unloading her groceries into her car. So I always like to do a good deed every day, like being on this show, for example. And so I said to the lady, I need a cart. I'll take your cart back for you. And she said, oh, no, you don't have to. And I said, oh, no, I'm going in anyway. So she gave me the cart. I realized after, it's one of those stores you have to put a quarter in the slot.
That's the first thing I thought of.
Back, you get your quarter back. And I realized why she was reluctant. And then I felt foolish after, like I was being cheap and not spending a quarter.
Wait a second. Roy, wait a second. How far is it from your house?
What? It's about 3 blocks from the house.
So you've been there many times?
No, I hadn't been there before.
Oh, okay.
And so
I thought this was your racket.
like I don't go there now because first of all, I usually don't have a quarter in my pocket. I don't want to put a quarter in for a cart. That seems foolish to me. And I quite honestly don't compare what a head of lettuce costs between one and the other. So there's another block away that I go to and I get the cart for free.
Right.
So whether that's added value in one or diminished value in another, but it might appeal to one, if one customer feels they're going to save a couple bucks by putting a quarter in, that appeals to them. Doesn't appeal to me. So.
But do you think, like I was going through even our client base, like I was thinking Micromine. That's a company, they bought up all these sort of brands over the years. You actually did their one episode, Roy, looking at, what is it called? Elastri, I think it is?
Yes.
So Elastri is like now I've got my notes here because I didn't do that interview, so Elastri is the...
what was that one about, Jared?
That manages the mining schedule. But then they've got another one that tacks onto it, which is like the communication part of it. So the team, everybody knows what people are assigned to and things like that. So they combine all these services basically through the life of the mine.
Yeah.
So if you're going to onboard a system, you go, okay, well, Micromine, as we can sort of grow with it as we're bringing all this stuff on. They sort of can plug in all these different areas. Well, now you're not as worried if they're a few percent more, and I'm not saying they are, but it becomes usability. They're pulling like development from these different platforms, so they're always getting better and better. They sort of have this system. So all of a sudden the cost is not your primary. That's hard to do.
Yeah, well, in technology especially, we've all been through this where we buy some technology that's not compatible with something else we have.
Right.
And if you were to tell me for $100 more, you can get this technology that's compatible with everything you have now,
then it's the value's there.
Yeah, no question. I would pay that extra because it's valuable to me. It's my time. It's my frustration with trying to integrate two systems together. Anyway, maybe not a great example, but
I think it is. It's exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, that you are willing to pay more, and if that's at a large scale.
I think Apple captured that with like their products, because like Jared and I were looking once at like just like a standard laptop computer, and we're seeing like you can get all the bells and whistles that Apple offers in a Microsoft, but then you're paying the same amount, so why not just get the Apple? It's all built in anyway.
Yeah,
and
it ends up being the same.
I think that's one of those things. They captured that with a lot of their products.
Well, if you go back in time to a great Canadian company, BlackBerry, right? And BlackBerry's added value and why they were very successful in the early going was security. And they framed themselves as the technology for businesses because you could keep your information secure. And that was an added value that a lot of businesses bought into and said, yeah, we're going to use BlackBerry. Well, their competitors looked at that and said,
at one point,
okay, we can do that too. So BlackBerry stuck with their one great feature.
Yeah.
Whereas the other technologies integrated that feature in with all the other great things they were doing. And all of a sudden,
Apple was security.
You didn't need a business and a personal phone anymore.
Yeah.
Because you could get a phone that would do both.
Yeah, you can. You don't want to hang. You want to offer the value, but you don't want to build your whole business so that's all you have, because then someone else just comes and duplicates it, right?
You got to keep adding value.
You got to keep adding value.
You don't add it once.
This brings my next example is L&H. We just did an episode. It'll probably be released by the time, so we can put a link to it. They installed their vertical turning lathe. And just to give us an idea of the size of this, it handles.
It's huge.
Did you see this when I put it in the notes? 250 tons on its massive table. It's 42 feet in diameter and turn parts that are over 16 feet in height. What is that? It's
what are they building? What are they using this to build?
Roy, what would be some examples of that? You'd probably know better than me.
Well, I'm not sure what this particular piece of equipment is. Whether it's crushing equipment, whether it's moving material, I'm not quite sure. But we were all at Mine Expo.
Double swing
when you think of the magnitude of some of that equipment,
Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah, or like giant pumps, or like giant pump parts, things like that. Yeah.
Facet. I love this. This stuff is the coolest stuff.
Well, I
remember going to, I think it was Michigan, and it was a drag line. The drag line there, the piece of equipment was like a building.
Right.
You go into it, and there's 4 or 5 floors. I can't remember if there was an elevator or not in it.
This is for the drag line.
And it would move very slowly, but it's a huge building on cat tracks. And some of this equipment it's just amazing.
Yeah. So what the L&H, and this is what, so L&H makes this huge investment. It took 263 pounds of steel to reinforce this machine.
How much?
263,000 pounds of steel was put into the shop.
So they're supporting the industry.
Yeah, I was going to say that's actually stimulating the economy.
They had 2,100 cubic yards of concrete, 22 feet deep. That's what this is, just to hold it and make it solid. And it has to be
like
very precise. It's like your driveway times 21 and a half. Mm-hmm. But that investment for them, I think it's the biggest lathe in North America, I think. To do that now, they're the ones that can do it.
Yeah.
If you need something, again, it becomes not about price. You either have to get an overseas part, all the shipping, all the supply chain issues, all that sort of thing. So they've got the ear to the ground to the market. They know they have this huge competitive advantage now. It takes a huge investment, but now they've got it. It's in place.
Well, if there's another thing that I was thinking about when you were talking about that, Jared, is the classic IBM marketing approach is no one ever got fired buying IBM, right? So you can try these new products, for your business. You can try these different things, but you pay a little more and you get something is going to work. Mm-hmm. That was the basis of their market. And for years, that was, if you're a procurement agent and you're buying computers for the company.
I think this is an interesting point, though. I think the issue with that nowadays, though, that would have worked before the age of the internet.
It did work.
Yes.
It did work when they came out with that plan.
Now,
and they had lion's share of the market then.
But now
took a massive position in them. All that.
Yeah.
Like they were that leader.
But now you can go and look at its operating system. You can go online and find a blog that line by line will compare a system.
Exactly.
Yes.
So at that time, people couldn't do that. So, now
I actually want to. You both had interesting points about like the value add and like talking about like kind of like the value over profit, which is I hadn't even seen those topics when I was thinking about like when should a company even look at making a product like profit. So it's an interesting segue because going back to L&H, obviously that takes massive capital investment. Same with like Roy, what you were saying is like making sure you're doing the value add for those projects beforehand. Amazon famously, and obviously we probably all use Amazon, they're in a way, to me, Amazon isn't even really like a product company. They have become masters in basically in transportation.
Logistics, distribution.
They're like a logistics distribution house. Of course, there's Walmart. You can walk in, but now like I can do a cost analysis on how long is it going to take me to go to Walmart and find something versus even if I pay a couple more bucks, just get it to my door in a couple days.
Yeah.
Amazon, they just kept going like we need to obsess over the customer, and they just kept adding value. The Prime membership. They'll say like I make an order, you save $10 on shipping because you have a Prime membership. I know, and what's smart about that is I'm paying $11 a month. I'm like, did I actually save $10? Who knows? They're sending out truckloads.
But Rory, you know what? Like what Amazon is doing isn't new, right? Mm-hmm. There was Sears, and Sears catalog, and you order from the catalog, and in 2 weeks you get something.
Right.
Consumers Distributing tried something different. You order from the catalog, you come to our store and pick it up.
I never even heard of that company, actually. Consumers Distributing?
Yeah. But what they would do is you would get their catalog, and they would have local distribution points. They wouldn't deliver to your door, but they would tell you when to come, and you would come and pick it up at the distribution area.
Right.
So Amazon took these things, and I was reading about this. Bezos started out with books. Mm-hmm. That was the first thing Amazon started with, because they were relatively easy.
Yeah.
Far easier to deliver than most things. And but he started with books, knowing that he wanted to figure out how to do it and then expand from there. So he took something that was relatively easy.
Brilliant. And
said, okay, once we get this distribution figured out, how do we use it for other things? So,
did you read The Everything Store, the book about like when they started? Did you read that book?
No.
It was because he talks about that, because like that was exactly right with the books. And even like the biggest bookstore in America used to be, I can't remember now. But
what was it? Noble or?
Barnes and Noble.
Barnes and Noble.
And they were going back and forth. Should we buy it? And they didn't, obviously. So that was kind of a mistake. But that was right, because they're relatively light to ship, easy to pack, and they just were able to expand. But that's the one thing, like even with that, like the books obviously were a great starting point. They had to learn like every new product category that they added was a whole new distribution thing they had to learn, which is fascinating. So that's where the profit, he just kept going, okay, if we get that product to a customer in 2 days, they have really easy returns, which was notoriously hard with online shipping. They bought a company, actually, I think it was a shoe company, I can't remember the name of it. They actually took that model, because you used to be able to order from this company, like say 10 pairs of shoes, and send back 6. No charges, nothing. Amazon has done, when they bought that business, they essentially put that across their whole business line. We're going to just make it as easy as possible to send the product back.
You know what's something to my mind when you're talking about that, Rory, is that assumptions. Like it's really easy to make an assumption that if we allow easy returns, it's going to hurt it's going to hurt the bottom line. It's going to hurt the margin. Yeah. All these assumptions that are made, rather than working it from the other way, going, let's price it so we can provide all these things that people love, so that we can do those things that are convenient. Because like what you're talking about, like if I've got to go pick up, I don't know, like soap, I'm more than happy to pay an extra $1, and I just add a few things in.
And you're in New Westminster, it's a whole different ballgame trying to get to a store.
It's an hour out of my day. Mm-hmm. I have stuff on recurring order on Amazon. It just shows up. Mm-hmm. And I just check. I don't even go out of my way. As I walk by the mailroom, I just check it. Like
my daughter has a subscription with, is it called Go Fresh?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Fresh.
Yeah.
Right? Fresh. And she gets once a week. She gets a package which has all her meals planned out. She'll make a meal, and what's left over is her lunch when she goes to work, and it works great for her. Mm-hmm. And so people take things. But sorry, I was going to mention, Jared. You mentioned something there which is key, is that knowing what people want.
Yeah.
Right. And you mentioned the assumption, like the three of us can sit here and say, well, we think we know what the mining industry wants. But, the listening part of it is so important. It's talking to the clients and listening to, because people can have different, I call them positions and interests when we talk about negotiation, but there's different terminology for it. But people can have different reasons for wanting, or different things that they want from a product. And the fact that if I have to pay for a shopping cart, I'm going to go to a different grocery store.
I won't. Just
that's
like
me.
you're saying, I don't do it just because I don't carry quarters around.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is actually a good point. That annoyance is like, do I have a quarter?
Well, and in my case, like Rory, Rory, you've got an adorable baby. I've got my little ugly thing that I got to walk around with.
Oh my goodness.
No more drinking on this show.
No. She's adorable. I just saw her.
We have the pictures,
lies.
people. I'm not gonna walk around and anyway.
Jared, before you continue slandering your child, I just want to mention the one thing that Jared and I were just talking about too, and Roy, you were saying about like what customers get out of a product is sometimes you can default to giving your opinion. Jared and I were just talking about if you ask a question first, it can clear up a whole bunch of confusion.
Yeah. What I was actually
Anyway,
my serious point on that was to go get, if I got to go to the front office, get a quarter, do all that. It's actually, and then she poos halfway through the deal. It's actually a major. I'm not going to do it. I'll drive 20 minutes to avoid that situation.
Jared, we all know a lot of people struggle with change.
Roy, I like the nasty Roy when you get how far through that beer are you?
But I guess not as far as I need to be.
Yeah, I like that nasty side that you. Oh, yeah, there it is. You're not even halfway through. That's why.
Halfway through. He's 2.5% edgier.
Yeah, 2.5% edgier. By the way, we took our baby to the cross the other day and then left her with her godmother. And by the end of it, and this is not a joke, she was on a couch with her back to people, hiding, because my wife took the chance to go off shopping, and she just got mobbed.
People didn't realize the context of this discussion. What you said is you took your daughter to the cross with her godmother. Is that what I heard?
No, I didn't go. I went to Starbucks, and my wife and the godmother and the baby went. Yeah. And then she got mobbed, and she'd never experienced that, so she came out like completely disheveled because everybody attacked her. Anyway, I was going to ask something. Oh, Rory, going back to your profit thing, I wanted to hear your train of thought a little bit more on it. You touched on it, but we kind of went all over the place.
It's interesting seeing, like, obviously one of the best business entrepreneurs in the world talk about it, because he kind of like joked about it, because they would just put all that money back into, I keep going to say manufacturing. Essentially, they had a manufacturing facility for distribution. When you look at like the Amazon warehouses for facilitating like packaging all these for shipping.
Yeah.
And in his mind, all those lines in a balance sheet for a company that's starting out, when is kind of that time when you even need, like, you actually need to make a profit? Like, even looking at recent numbers, in 2023, Amazon did $574 billion in sales. Their pre-tax income out of that $500+ billion was only $37 billion. They are still putting massive amounts of money into the development. So they have always kind of gone on, let's just keep getting this better and better for the customer. They have Prime TV now. They have all these different options. And I think they're a case study on like why people will still pay huge multiples on what they're doing, value the company very highly. It's not all about profit. You can definitely take it.
Yeah. And I think, Rory, it's a really important point, because the other thing that businesses often do is I won't say a benchmark, but an expectation of what the margin should be.
Yeah.
And
that's what I've been trying to get to this whole time. That's what I've been trying to say. Thank you. Could have got there about 45 minutes ago, but there we are. Here we are. Please continue, Roy.
And you can look at benchmarking and what the market is doing, what your competitors are doing, but it really should align with what you want to do as a company and what you need to do to continue to be in business. Mm-hmm. So, maybe as a company, you're a public company, and maybe there's you're set up to pay dividends. So there's certain cash flow you need to generate to do that. There's certain parameters. If you're investing capital, then there's a return on investment. So there's certain expectations there. But for every business, it's different. And especially for entrepreneurs, for small businesses starting out, to say we should have an EBIT of 20% or 30% or whatever, those are arbitrary numbers. And
really
what you should be focused on is building your business, adding value, growing, and the profit should enable you to do all that. And maybe it's a bit of a different, maybe Adam Smith is rolling over in his grave right now when it comes to capitalism, but I still feel that profit should be the enabler that allows you to run a business and do and achieve that vision and achieve those goals that you want to.
I like that when profit should be an enabler, because I mean, if you manage the capital right, and even if you're taking out, like, say you're issuing bonds as a larger company, and you can do that at like good rates, it's so much better to continue like furthering that vision of the company. Like for us, it's the voice of industry.
Yeah.
Than just basically going like there's some, like, they call them zombie companies. They basically, all they're doing is any profit is just getting paid out to shareholders. They just slowly, you mentioned Sears, they kind of ran into that.
Yeah.
There's no more innovation. They've got stores everywhere, high amounts of capital. Amazon comes in, they don't need any stores. They just
warehousing.
your door.
Yeah, there's kind of two things though that I'm trying to get straight in my mind, because there's one that's like don't get fixated on that we need this margin to operate our business.
Yeah.
So that's one part of it. But then there's the other part of how do you get people to pay more? If I'm going to buy, Roy, you're probably sick of me saying this, but if I'm going to buy a Porsche, I'm not looking for this amazing deal. That's not why I'm buying a Porsche.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm buying a used vehicle, a used truck, now I'm probably trying to find best value for best price. Those are different buys. So there's the one of not worrying about the margin, but there's also that thing of trying to find a product and deliver it that you can, the margin might be 10 times, but people don't care. And they're going back to the gun example. There's a few features on a shotgun that people will pay, like the Italian gun enthusiasts. They'll pay way more than they'll pay for an American shotgun. Is $600.
Are you telling me there's an American version of it's the exact same gun basically? Like, it's even like the parts come from Italy?
Not even, actually. I've got a Franchi that is it actually says Benelli on the receiver. So it's a Benelli gun, but it's just got some different parts attached to it. Like the butt of the gun is a different thing than the Benelli is.
Right.
So it's the same gun, but they tack on nice features that make the Benelli, which is owned by Beretta, which is the next, it just goes on and on, right?
You guys are into some dangerous hobbies. Let's talk motorcycles for a minute. And so we got Harley Davidson, right?
I'll admit something on this show. So I had a Kawasaki Ninja. My
crotch rocket.
Goodness, is that a scary device? Just insane. Absolute. Just gun it, and you're just.
I've got a big old Honda, which I've had since '98, and it just runs fine. But
you
Harley
ride a
Davidson,
motorbike?
I remember in an article they were saying, where else can an accountant feel like a badass?
That's so true.
So it's and Scott Clark, and you met Scott, or you talked to Scott Jared, and I remember I was complaining about an advertisement because he's into marketing, and he said it's the experience that it generates.
Yeah. Right.
So if you're buying a product that generates an experience for you, so which is hard to do in the nuts and bolts industry or in the construction industry, but if you're buying a product like a motorcycle and the difference you feel from riding a Harley in that rumble versus riding a Honda, I mean, is that worth $5,000 to you? For some people it is. So
you're touching on a really important thing, Rory. Rory, we've been talking about this a lot. You have to be willing to let go of some clientele. Let's make it. Let's go to the Crownsman thing for a second. So right now we are reworking. Well, not reworking. We reworked, and we're getting huge response because yes, it's a bigger investment for what we're doing now, but now everything's measured. There's actually result metrics. Everything is there that people want from us.
The one-click conversion is just
right.
Unbelievable.
The model makes sense, without putting it up on the screen. The model makes sense to people, and so they're responding to it.
Well, it doesn't matter, and it doesn't matter if it was 20 times more. If it gives them more return, that's what businesses are looking for. Our clients are they're not retailers; they're other businesses.
B2B. It's all B2B.
That's what they care about, how much value you give. But again, I'm going to go back just because I want to actually get sort of some clear points from you guys on this, is that line between not worrying about margin, but also finding a way to deliver a product that the margin goes beyond this 2-3% that everybody's fighting over.
All the expectations.
I mean, you can't do a 2 or 3% margin and innovate.
No, I mean
right?
Fighting over a 2 or 3% margin.
Oh, okay. Okay, I see what you mean. Yeah.
And then going, no. We're going to just do it like Amazon. We're just going to do it completely different. We're not going to be beholden to what the market. I forget what the term you use. That margin comparison. We're not going to be beholden to
Roy
that.
said, we need an EBIT of 20%. Well, that's going to hamstring you because that means if you make $1 million, you have to take 20. You have to have 200,000 for every million as EBIT.
Well, let's use all our favorite star. Do you think Cardi B is using a 20% margin for her business?
Probably 50.
She's making her margin would be insane because she's so popular.
She did a rally and got $5 million or $10 million.
Yeah, had to.
But it's a different.
She's got a great quote. If a girl have beef with me, she gonna have beef with me forever. Now that will change your life.
Yeah. So she's not a vegetarian, is what you're saying.
Okay, I'm gonna stop. No.
I don't know why we're back on Cardi B again. That's
if we say her name enough, she'll probably hear about this.
Yeah, Rory invited her to the show, eh?
I did. It's an open-ended.
We will have Cardi B on anytime.
Absolutely, for the Americans.
For the Americans. Anyway,
it all comes full circle.
It all comes. But it is a really not to beat on this point too much, but it is a really difficult thing to do, to find like that company called The Cross that my wife just loves to go to, or if you're buying a Porsche, or if you're like what Micromine does, that whole supply chain or that whole offering throughout the life of the mine, or you have an L&H where they've invested, I don't know what they invested in that, I'm sure millions, into making this lathe or whatever it is that can now manufacture new products or rework products that nobody else could in North America now. They're the company that can do it. You have to be willing to take risks.
We also have to segue because Roy mentioned about the upcoming government efficiency program, which I don't know if any of that ties in, Roy, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that as well, because I obviously perked up when I saw the Doge department that's being added.
Yeah, I mentioned that. I thought that was interesting that, the new administration in the U.S., Elon Musk, has been, I don't know if he's been appointed or maybe it needs Senate approval. I'm not sure the process, but to head up the Government Efficiency Committee. And I got to think that, Elon Musk is a genius in terms of marketing, in terms of vision and things. I'm not sure if he'd be a genius in redefining the government. Like anyone that's dealt with government, it's just a totally different business. It's not a business, right?
Even on the grant, it's the business of redistributing the taxes. It's pretty wild.
And for those of us that are in business, like I consider myself I'm an engineer by training, but I'm a businessman by experience.
You are?
Well, was retired now.
Okay.
Or maybe just tired. I'm not sure which.
Yeah.
But the skills that you need to run a business are very different than the skills you need to run a government, or to streamline a government, or to make a government efficient.
So you don't think you can just go in and fire 80% of the government staff, Roy? Is that what you're
Oh, well, I mean,
do?
you
For the
could
record,
do
I
that.
think you can.
You could do that, and it would severely damage the process.
Rory, I've got a question for you. If he went fired 80%, let's just pick a number, and there was 10,000 people available, would you be excited to look at their resumes? Would you be excited to hire them?
Oh, the 10,000 people available for private,
instinctively.
you mean, Jared?
I'm really, I'm going to get in trouble for this question. But,
Yeah.
But no, genuinely, though, with what sort of that process.
But you know what? The answer is no, and for a very simple reason is
Rude.
someone that was recently fired from their job is not at the top of my hire list unless I know them personally and unless I know the story behind it. But so to be blunt, those people are going to have a real tough time.
Yeah. But the 20% that got kept, you'd probably be interested in all of them.
Maybe.
No, I mean, obviously,
but
government
I
is
go back
bloated.
to my comment, Jared, is government is different than business.
There's a great interview. We should, Rory, you were just watching it, that one on Flagrant, and they had a CIA officer on it. And I never could quite understand the difference between government. And what he described it as, in government, your only way to advance is through basically the positions available in government.
The bureaucracy of those positions.
Yeah, so the bureaucracy feeds itself because that's the path to advancement, right? Whereas if let's say I'm working for you at cementation, and I come to you and I say, hey, we've got this whole other thing we can do, I might create for myself a whole other opportunity within the organization.
Yep.
Not going to happen in a government agency.
No, and you know what? And I saw it in my career where at 29 years old, I was running a project, and that isn't typical, but, my boss was a real supporter of me and said, next project, you're going to be the project manager.
Yeah.
And the project was in Quebec, and I don't speak much French, but he said, no, I made a commitment to you. You're going, and I ran that project, and it was successful. But, that type of early advancement, so those people that don't get those opportunities, they leave government and go into private industry.
Yeah.
It's a difficult, it's, I won't say a problem, it's a challenge. It's the way it's structured now. Ken Dryden, the famous goalie, and later senator, wrote a great book on government.
I didn't know he became a senator.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he's been a senator for, I think, 25 years now.
Oh, wow.
When he finished his hockey career, he completed his law degree and went into politics. And it's only about a 100-page book, but it's actually quite depressing on how government works and how it's almost impossible to change it. And we talked about change before, and it's tough to do in business, and it's even tougher to do in government.
Do you think Elon can, though? Like, do you look at that and go, oh, that's like I'm sort of in the I sort of default to, I mean, if a government stays in, let's say, in power for I don't know, 12 years, and they screw up the immigration, they screw up housing and all this sort of stuff, then you know what, then you can stop being supportive of them. But I do think governments, whoever's elected, you should get support, at least in the first couple of years, to see what you can do. So I look at it as pretty optimistic. I think someone like an Elon can actually bring some of that experience he's had. He's never really failed yet.
I think the approach makes sense. I'm not sure if the selection is the right person. And that's just an opinion. I mean, obviously I don't know Elon Musk at all, other than what you read in social media. But my my theory on that is the type of business he has run is so much different than government, that he's going to be, it's going to be totally new to him and totally different. And if he takes the approach he took at Twitter, I don't know how that's going to work. I really don't.
Your fear being what, Roy?
No, if you look at programs to help people in healthcare in different areas, and you start cutting administration, that means, will it take longer to get these things done? Will some people suffer because of it? Yeah. It's a very complex organization, any government.
Yeah.
And just cutting, looking at efficiency in terms of how money is used is an interesting approach.
I guess the discussion really then is, and it is an interesting point, but I think the discussion is when the government gets so big in their spend, I don't know how quickly, Roy, you could pull that up, what the government spends. It's their percentage of their GDP on government spending is so massive that if you took the departments he'd be looking at and chopped them by 50%, it still would be massive. Right,
well,
like
the federal
gets
government spent $6.75 trillion in 2022, just as a reference point.
And
wild numbers.
And their GDP is 22 or 23.
GDP of USA now is $27 trillion.
Yeah, that actually doesn't seem that crazy for.
So $3 trillion. If you cut it by 50%, $3 trillion. It's probably more now, but they're gonna have to do something.
But they're not cutting it by 50% though. They're cutting these segments. It's not you're not slashing half the government. You're slashing a segment or a division of another division down. So,
well, you're not necessarily slashing either. We talk about efficiency and people right away think about layoffs, but there's other ways to generate efficiency.
That's true. Yeah.
I referenced in my notes, that movie Dave, which I don't know if you've seen, but it's a comedy. Kevin Kline. Anyway, he is in to imitate the president, and he's an employment guy. He gets people jobs, and because he has a perfect likeness to the president goes into a coma, and rather than anyway. I won't go into the plot, but it's pretty interesting. But one of the things they do is that him and his accountant go in and look at the U.S. budget and start to suggest some places where they can save money without, and there's no layoffs. What they're doing is looking at how money's allocated and saying, well, anyway, I won't go into the detail. It's a fun movie, but it's an interesting concept. Mm-hmm. But it begs the question: who is the right person to head up an efficiency group? And Elon Musk is in there because of his profile. Yeah. Whether he's the right person for the job or not, I don't know.
Well, I mean, he does have a record of success. You've got Vivek as well.
Do this, but I have to. We're going to need to get to Roy's beer review because I have to jump on another meeting.
Oh
shortly. Boy. But I feel like this one we could have gone 2 hours on.
I just got to quickly say a cool news thing that we happened in BC. I'll be really quick with it. In BC, the new government that got elected, what they did is they gave appointments to every single member. Have you heard about this? It's actually brilliant, but absurd. So normally you'd appoint a cabinet. Yeah. And everybody gets a pay raise. Those people get, an extra 40, an extra 50,000. They gave, one person is the secretary of meeting efficiency or something.
Did they give every person in the party?
So everybody got a raise. Every single person.
And Roy, to clarify, it's not. They got reelected by a slim majority by one.
So one person is like the chair organizer, like the actual physical chair. I'm joking, but they're just they're just these like
no, that's
silly.
about right, Jared. That's about right. They're like assistant to the regional manager, basically.
Exactly like that. It's exactly like that.
Yeah.
But it
Yeah.
comes
The
with like a
assistant
40,
manager?
50
No, you're assistant to the
the
manager.
regional manager.
assistant to the regional manager. Yeah. Rory, give us your review of Rory's kickoff with the beer, the Juicy Ass by Flying Monkey.
What do you guys think? I'm interested.
Juicy is
Why are you
definitely
laughing,
the right
Devin?
word.
It's just
Juicy is
such
definitely
a
the right
big
word. I thought it was
pause.
a lovely breakfast beer, which I'm giving away the time that we're filming this, or that we started filming.
Yeah, for 6 a.m. it is.
6 a.m.
You know,
really
as far as like sort of a fruity beer, it's actually quite nice. You don't kind of get sick of drinking it after a while.
Yep.
Definitely a golf course beer for me, but yeah, pretty good, pretty easy to drink.
For an IPA, it's the best one we've had so far for me.
Yeah, they didn't overdo. Actually, yeah, the bitterness of the IPA with the sweetness is actually a nice balance. That's yeah.
And pairs
So
really nice
that's
with
what you're
coffee.
talking about, you know, and this is what a lot of the best brewers have figured out, the balance, right? They've got the fruit, they've got you know, the hops in there, they've got a touch of bitterness, and that's what this beer does. It's very well balanced. It's kind of a classic IPA. I think it's their, you know, it's one of their core beers, but as far as an IPA goes, I think it's a great IPA. It's not over the top. It's not too bitter. It's got some fruit in there, but it's not what I call puree fruit. You know, when the fruit is too much, or it's got a nice balance. I think it's a nice IPA. I enjoy it.
What did you rate it, Roy?
I would rate it a 16 now. I think originally 3 years ago, I think it was the first IPA I reviewed, and I think I gave it a 15 back then. But after tasting many of them, I think it's a top-notch IPA. I'd give it a
really
16 out of 20.
That Cardi influence really helps it too as well. So I'm glad that that's like increasing the rating. It's
You guys need to grow up. Devin, anything to close with? Any thoughts you have?
I mean, overall, you guys seem to be very obsessed with Cardi B going forward, so I'm looking forward to that. I have not drank the beer, so I can't really put an input on that. But based on how you guys crushed the bottle back today, I would say it was pretty good.
Well, thank you. Does anybody want one more Cardi B quote before we wrap up? I feel like we need to now.
I just want to make a comment that I have not been the one promoting Cardi B. It seems to be an obsession with Jared. And perhaps Rory associated the beer with it.
Rory,
In no
you
way,
sent me
shape, or form did I pick the beer based on a Cardi B segue.
You sent me emails about Cardi B. You sent me actual emails.
Between the two ferns. I saw her in between the two ferns. I couldn't resist.
She says, "I'm an emotional gangster. I cry once every month."
Don't we all?
Nope. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. If you made it to the end of this, good
Bless
for you.
you.
Yeah, bless you.
Kudos. Perseverance.
We will see you on the next episode. Make sure to subscribe. Don't suggest guests or sponsors. Don't do that. Thank you, everybody. We will see you on the next episode of The Crownsman Show.